So the level of impact is really disproportionate, and a lot of it has to do with just sort of historical challenges, right? These communities have faced, particularly for African American or the Black community, Hispanics, as well as because of the pandemic, Asian communities are also seeing an increased level of racial discrimination. So it is, by all measures, they are being impacted really disproportionately. And so there really is a need for us to reach out to them to ensure that, all of the relief programs, right, that are made available from the government as well as from all of the other services that are available to them. They have access and they have awareness, first of all, and access to them because while they're doing a lot, right, to keep the country running, I think they're definitely looking for that allyship, right? And so because they have been at the forefront, battling both the pandemic as well as the racial inequality, and just looking at some of the statistics, right, in terms of the number of physicians, right, almost like 18% of all physicians are of Asian descent, and a large number percentage of all nurses actually multicultural. And so for sure, from the medical field, there's many of us in the community that are fighting the pandemic directly, but at the same time they're also fighting a lot of the racial inequalities, right, at the grassroots level. So if you get to the next slide, we talk a little bit of zone in a little bit more into the insight with this target audience. Is that obviously because of the shutdown of the economy, there is definitely financial impact, right, with these audiences, particularly with African American and also Hispanic audiences, where we saw a huge amount of job loss. I think for Hispanic, the data have shown us like, over 60% have reported the job loss or loss of income or decrease in income. So that definitely seeing the signs and the impacts of the financial decline. But at the same time, due to the many macro level sort of issues, the level of cultural aggression is also always on the rise, and particularly with the case of the pandemic, you're seeing that Asian are sort of receiving the brunt of some of those aggression towards them, which is really unfortunate. But at the same time, they are still right working very hard to not only support their local communities, but also lend a hand to support other communities. At other levels as well. And so we want to make sure that we are going to be able to deliver a lot of this communication of the relief programs because they're not getting to the communities. And so there really is a need to get that information out there. In addition to that, due to just sort of historical challenges, there's always been some sense of exclusion already. And with this pandemic and then the information that's being disseminated, right, around the relief programs, they're also feeling that heightened sense of exclusion, which is, again, continuing that sort of feeling, right, that sentiment that a lot of these communities have felt in the past. And at the same time, they are really looking for that allyship, right, to stand with them during this time, and also helping them to navigate the difficulties of this current situation, but really looking forward into how they can recover from this in the near future. So that brings us to the objective of our efforts, and really want to actively provide that assistance to the multicultural consumers and communities to help them recover and rebuild their financial lives or in the near term, as well as really moving forward in the long term, because there's a lot of day-to-day challenges that these consumers and communities are facing. But at the same time, as they're trying to adjust and adopt, but really looking forward to how they can move forward, right, and pivot their businesses and make changes in their lives so that they can really sort of recover in the longer term. So we'll speak to a little bit of that later on. It comes in the form of, how do we help them to be better prepared, particularly financially, right, for these sort of unforeseen circumstances that really rip havoc on people's lives. So with that, we want to put together this campaign and really want to deliver on the core values of our company. And this is really to draw strength from diversity and doing the right thing and putting people first. And this is built upon, the core principle, which is, investing our hearts and minds to power human potential. And so I think, what better time than it is now, right, to really step up and step into the trenches and provide that tangible support in a meaningful fashion to these communities. And so they really will be able to, gain access to all of the assistance programs that's available by, us creating this sort of ecosystem, if you will, of information, knowledge and support. And so it's really to help them navigate through this difficult time, but also helping them to find a way to recover and rebuild for the long term.